Welcome to AI Fluency for Non-Engineers. This is a comprehensive 2-hour deep dive into everything you need to know to use AI effectively without any technical background. I want to start with a confession. When AI tools first became widely available, I made every mistake in the book. I treated them like magic. I expected perfect answers. I shared things I shouldn't have. I got frustrated when they made obvious errors, and I nearly gave up on them entirely. But then I started to understand how these systems actually work. Not the math, not the code, but the mental models. And everything changed. I went from a frustrated skeptic to someone who uses AI tools every single day to work faster, think better, and accomplish things that would have been impossible before. That's what this episode is about. I'm going to give you the complete framework for AI fluency. Not expertise, not the ability to build AI systems, just fluency, the ability to communicate effectively with these tools and get massive value from them. Here's what we'll cover over the next 2 hours. First, we'll talk about the fundamental nature of AI, what it actually is and isn't, and why that matters for how you use it. Second, we'll dive deep into prompt engineering, the art and science of communicating with AI effectively. Third, we'll cover the trust spectrum, understanding when to rely on AI and when to verify. Fourth, we'll explore advanced techniques that most people never learn. And finally, we'll build your personal AI strategy, a system for integrating these tools into your actual work. Let's begin with a question that seems simple but is actually profound. What is AI really? Part A is about building the right mental model for AI. This might seem abstract, but it's actually the most practical thing we'll cover, because if you misunderstand what AI is, you'll misuse it. You'll expect things it can't deliver, you'll miss things it can do brilliantly, and you'll make mistakes that could have been easily avoided. So let's get this foundation right. We're going to demystify AI in a way that's accessible but accurate. By the end of this section, you'll understand AI better than most people who use it daily. Let's start by killing the magic box fallacy. When people first use AI, especially modern chatbots like ChatGPT or Claude, there's a natural tendency to attribute human-like qualities to them. It seems like they understand. It seems like they think. It seems like they have preferences and personality. This is an illusion, and it's a dangerous one if you're trying to use AI effectively. Here's what AI actually is: pattern matching at scale. These systems have been trained on enormous amounts of text, essentially a significant portion of the internet and digitized books. They've learned statistical patterns about how words and concepts relate to each other. When you give them a prompt, they're predicting what words are most likely to come next based on those patterns. This is incredibly powerful. The patterns they've learned encode vast amounts of human knowledge, reasoning styles, and communication norms. But it's fundamentally different from understanding in the way humans understand. AI has no goals. It's not trying to help you or trick you or anything else. It's generating text. The helpfulness you perceive is a pattern learned from helpful text in the training data. The personality you might sense is also a pattern. Why does this matter practically? Because it changes your expectations. You stop expecting AI to get you in a human way. You start thinking about how to communicate in patterns the AI will recognize. You become a better user because you understand the tool. Here's a distinction that will reshape how you think about AI: the difference between deterministic and probabilistic systems. A calculator is deterministic. 2 plus 2 equals 4 every time, no exceptions. The same input always produces the same output. This is what we're used to with computers. AI is probabilistic. When you ask a question, the AI isn't looking up the answer. It's generating the most likely sequence of words based on your input and its training. The answer you get is essentially a prediction, not a retrieval. This has a fascinating implication. The same question can get different answers. If you ask ChatGPT the same thing twice, you might get slightly different responses. The model has an element of randomness built in, controlled by a parameter called temperature, which prevents it from being completely predictable. Many people see this as a flaw. Why can't it just give me the right answer consistently? But this variability is actually a feature. It's what allows AI to be creative, to brainstorm, to generate multiple options. A deterministic AI would be more like a search engine, giving you the same cached result every time. The practical implication: if you don't like an answer, ask again, try rephrasing. The probabilistic nature means there are usually multiple good answers, and sometimes you need to explore to find the best one for your needs. Let's talk about training data, because understanding this explains so much about AI behavior. Every AI model learns from a massive data set of text. For large language models, this typically includes websites, books, academic papers, code repositories, and much more. The model learns patterns from this data, which then shapes everything it generates. Think of training data as the AI's DNA. It defines what the AI knows, how it thinks, what biases it has, and what blind spots exist. If something wasn't in the training data, the AI doesn't know it. If something was represented poorly or incorrectly in the training data, the AI learned those problems. This leads to the concept of knowledge cutoff. AI models are trained at a specific point in time. Events, publications, and developments after that date are invisible to the model. When you ask about recent news or the latest research, and the AI gives you confident but outdated information, this is why. The quality issue is equally important. Training data from the internet includes a lot of garbage alongside the gold: misinformation, biased perspectives, outdated facts. All of these get mixed together. The AI learns from all of it. It doesn't have a reliable way to distinguish reliable sources from unreliable ones. This is why AI can seem brilliant and idiotic in the same conversation. On topics well represented by high-quality training data, it's remarkably good. On topics where the training data was thin, biased, or wrong, it confidently produces garbage. Understanding this helps you calibrate your trust. Now let's address one of the most important phenomena in AI: hallucination. This is when AI generates content that sounds authoritative but is completely made up. Why does this happen? Because AI doesn't know what it doesn't know. When you or I hit a gap in our knowledge, we feel it. We sense uncertainty. We say, "I'm not sure," or "I think," or "I'd have to look that up." We have a meta-awareness of our own knowledge boundaries. AI has no such mechanism. When it encounters a prompt that asks for something not well represented in its training data, it doesn't recognize the gap. It just generates the most likely sequence of words, which might be entirely fictional. Here's the scary part: the confident tone is constant. Whether the AI is telling you something rock solid or completely fabricated, the language sounds the same. There's no hesitation, no hedging, no uncertainty markers that reliably indicate when it's on shaky ground. I'll give you examples of hallucinations I've personally encountered. I've seen AI cite academic papers with real author names, plausible titles, legitimate journal names, and completely fake content. The paper never existed. I've seen it describe events that never happened, attribute quotes to people who never said them, and explain how products work in ways that contradict the actual product. The practical lesson: you cannot trust AI output at face value for anything factual. Verification isn't optional. We'll cover specific verification strategies later, but the mindset shift happens here. Treat AI output as a first draft that needs checking, not as a final answer. I want this principle to really sink in because it's the single most important thing to understand about using AI effectively. AI doesn't have uncertainty. It can't say, "I don't know this well enough to answer." It just generates text. And because it's trained on vast amounts of authoritative sounding text, the text it generates sounds authoritative too. The gaps in AI knowledge aren't random, they're systematic. Recent events are gaps. Highly specialized domains are gaps. Local or regional information is often a gap. Anything that wasn't well represented in training data is a gap. Your job as an AI user is to develop a sense for where these gaps likely are. In domains you know well, you'll catch the errors easily. In domains you don't know, you need to be much more skeptical and verify more carefully. The best AI users I know have developed what I call hallucination radar. They've internalized this principle so deeply that they automatically apply extra scrutiny to the types of claims where AI is likely to hallucinate. We'll develop this radar together over the next hour. Let's talk about AI memory, or more accurately, the lack of it. This is a source of constant confusion for new users. When you have a conversation with AI, it feels like it remembers what you said, and within that conversation, it kind of does. But the mechanism is different from human memory. AI has something called a context window. This is the amount of text, measured in tokens, that the model can process at once. Think of it as the model's working memory. Everything in the context window is visible to the model when generating its next response. For modern models, context windows have gotten quite large, hundreds of thousands of tokens in some cases. That's a lot of conversation. But there are still limits. As your conversation grows beyond the context window, older messages start to drop out. The AI literally can't see them anymore. It's not that it forgot, it's that those words are no longer in the input the model receives. More importantly, there's typically no persistent memory between sessions. When you start a new conversation, the AI doesn't remember your previous conversations. Some products build memory features on top of the base model, but the model itself starts fresh each time. This has practical implications. If you need the AI to remember something important, keep it in the current conversation. If you're starting a new session, you may need to re-establish context. And if your conversation is getting very long, key details from the beginning might effectively be forgotten. Understanding this helps you structure conversations for best results. Now that we understand what AI is, let's build a framework for when to trust it. Because the answer isn't always or never, it's nuanced, and developing good judgment about trust is one of the most valuable skills in AI fluency. Let's build your trust calibration, starting with activities where AI is generally quite reliable and the cost of errors is low. Brainstorming and ideation are perfect for AI. You're not looking for truth, you're looking for possibilities. If the AI generates 20 ideas and only 3 are good, that's fine. You're going to evaluate them anyway. The AI just expanded your thinking faster than you could alone. First drafts and rough outlines are similar. You know you're going to revise. You're just getting past the blank page. If the draft has errors or odd phrasings, you'll catch them in editing. The value is in the speed of getting something down. Summarizing content you'll read anyway is safe because you have the verification built in. You'll see if the summary matches your own reading. The AI is giving you a preview, not a replacement for reading. Explaining concepts you can verify follows similar logic. The AI explains something. You check whether that explanation holds up against other sources or your existing knowledge. You're using AI as a starting point for learning, not the final word. Notice the pattern. High-trust activities are ones where you remain in the loop. You're evaluating, revising, verifying. The AI is augmenting your thinking, not replacing your judgment. Medium trust activities are where AI can be very helpful, but errors are more consequential. You need active verification, not just passive review. Research synthesis is a perfect example. AI can pull together information from its training data and give you a coherent overview of a topic, but any specific claim might be wrong, outdated, or oversimplified. Use the synthesis as a map, then verify the key points through authoritative sources. Code generation has gotten remarkably good, but it's not perfect. AI can write code that looks right, runs successfully, and still has subtle bugs or security issues. Always review generated code, run tests, understand what it's doing before deploying it. Data analysis works well when you understand the data and can recognize if the AI's analysis makes sense. If the AI says your data shows a certain trend, you can plot it yourself to verify. But if you're analyzing unfamiliar data and blindly trusting AI's interpretation, you're in dangerous territory. Writing content for review falls in the medium category because even though you'll review it, there might be facts, implications, or tones that you don't catch. The more the writing involves factual claims or sensitive topics, the more carefully you need to review. For medium trust activities, your verification is active. You're spot-checking claims, testing code, cross-referencing sources. This takes time, but it's how you get AI's speed benefits while maintaining quality. Low-trust activities are where AI is most likely to make consequential errors. Extra verification is mandatory. Specific facts, dates, and statistics are danger zones. AI will confidently tell you that something happened in a certain year or that a statistic is exactly some number. These specific claims are frequently wrong. Always verify with primary sources. Legal and medical advice is especially risky. These domains have complex rules, nuances that matter enormously, and the consequences of errors can be severe. AI might sound like a lawyer or doctor, but it absolutely is not one. It doesn't know your specific situation, your jurisdiction, your medical history. Use AI to prepare questions for professionals, not to replace them. Citations and references are hallucination hotspots. AI will invent paper titles, make up journal names, and attribute research to the wrong authors. I've seen it create citations so convincing that I had to search extensively before concluding the paper simply didn't exist. Never use an AI citation without confirming it exists. Recent events are problematic because of knowledge cutoffs. The AI might tell you about something that happened recently, but that information could be outdated, mixed up with older events, or completely fabricated. For current events, use news sources, not AI. For low-trust activities, don't rely on AI for the final answer. Use it to generate hypotheses you then verify, or to prepare for conversations with actual experts. The risk of unverified use is too high. Let me give you a practical framework for verification that you can apply immediately. First principle, primary sources beat AI every time. If AI tells you what a law says, read the actual law. If AI describes a research finding, read the actual paper. If AI claims a company has a certain policy, check the company's official documentation. Primary sources are the ground truth. AI is, at best, a summary of those sources that might have errors. Second principle, cross-reference with multiple authorities. If something is true and important, multiple reliable sources should confirm it. If you can only find one source or if sources contradict each other, be skeptical. Third principle, if you can't verify something, treat it as a hypothesis, not a fact. This is especially important when you're using AI for domains you don't know well. You might not be able to tell if the AI is right. In that case, don't treat its claims as knowledge. Treat them as possibilities to investigate. Fourth principle, build verification into your workflow. Don't verify as an afterthought. Build checkpoints into your process. After AI generates research, you verify. After AI drafts content with facts, you check those facts. This isn't extra work. It's how the workflow is designed from the start. The goal is to get the benefits of AI, the speed, the brainstorming, the drafting, while maintaining the quality standards you need. Verification is what makes that possible. Part B is where we get practical with prompt engineering. I call it the $500 skill because the difference between a mediocre prompt and a great prompt can literally save you hours of work every single time you use AI. Most people dramatically underinvest in their prompts. They type something quick, get a mediocre result, and either accept it or get frustrated. But just a few minutes of prompt craft can transform the output from garbage to gold. Let me show you how. Let's establish why prompts matter so much. When you communicate with AI, your prompt is everything. The AI has no background on you, your project, your goals, your constraints, or your preferences. It only knows what you tell it in the prompt. Everything else is a guess based on general patterns. This is radically different from human communication. When you ask a colleague for help, they bring their knowledge of you, the project, the company culture, recent conversations, and much more. None of that exists with AI. You're starting from zero every time. Here's the iron law of prompting. Vague prompts produce vague outputs. If you ask, write me something about marketing, you'll get generic content that could apply to any marketing situation. If you ask for a 3-paragraph LinkedIn post for B2B SaaS founders about why they should invest in content marketing during economic downturns with a provocative opening and specific examples, you'll get something much more useful. The specificity of your output is bounded by the specificity of your input. AI can't read your mind. It can only work with what you give it. This means prompt writing is a skill worth developing. A few extra minutes spent on your prompt can save hours of iteration and editing. Over a career of AI use, this skill compounds massively. Let me teach you a framework for constructing effective prompts. I call it RICE: role, instructions, context, and examples. Role defines who the AI should be. You are a senior marketing strategist with 20 years of experience in B2B technology. You are a patient and encouraging writing teacher. You are a skeptical investor evaluating a pitch. The role shapes the perspective, vocabulary, and approach the AI will use. Instructions tell the AI specifically what to do, not just help me with marketing, but analyze this marketing copy and provide 5 specific suggestions for improvement, focusing on clarity and persuasive appeal. The more specific your instructions, the more useful the output. Context provides background the AI needs. Your industry, your audience, relevant constraints, what you've already tried, why you're doing this. Context helps the AI tailor its output to your actual situation rather than giving generic advice. Examples show what good output looks like. If you want a certain format, show that format. If you want a certain tone, provide a sample. Examples are worth 1,000 words of description. They give the AI a concrete target. Not every prompt needs all 4 elements. A quick question might just need instructions, but for important tasks, investing in all 4 elements of rice dramatically improves your results. Let's dive deeper into each element, starting with role. Setting a role primes the AI to respond in a specific way. It's like asking a method actor to get into character. The role shapes everything that follows. When you say you are a senior software architect, the AI will use technical vocabulary, consider scalability and maintainability, and give advice with an experienced perspective. When you say you are a patient teacher for beginners, the AI will use simpler language, break down concepts more, and check for understanding. I'll share some roles I use frequently. For writing tasks, you are an experienced editor at a major publication focused on clarity and compelling narrative. This produces tighter, more engaging writing. For business strategy, you are a management consultant from a top firm known for cutting through complexity to actionable recommendations. This produces more structured, practical advice. For technical help, you are a senior developer who is also excellent at explaining concepts to non-technical stakeholders. This bridges the gap between technical accuracy and accessibility. For critical feedback, you are a skeptical reviewer who looks for weaknesses and gaps in arguments. This produces more useful critique than a generic "give me feedback" prompt. Experiment with different roles for your common tasks. You'll find that certain roles consistently produce better results for your specific needs. Instructions are where most people fall short. They're not specific enough. Compare these 2 prompts. Prompt A, help me with my presentation. Prompt B, create an outline for a 15-minute presentation to our executive team about why we should invest in customer research. Include 3 main points, each with supporting data needs, and 1 potential executive objection with how to address it. Prompt A will get you something generic and probably not very useful. Prompt B will get you something you can actually use. Here are specificity dimensions to consider. Format. Do you want paragraphs, bullets, a table, a numbered list, code, a script? Tell the AI exactly what format you need. Length. A brief summary is ambiguous. A summary in 3 to 5 sentences is specific. A comprehensive analysis is vague. A 2-page analysis is clear. Style. Conversational or formal, provocative or measured, enthusiastic or skeptical. The style dramatically changes how information is presented. Constraints. What should the AI avoid? Don't use jargon. Don't include disclaimers. Don't start with I. Constraints are as important as positive instructions. The general principle, any dimension of the output that matters to you should be specified in the prompt. If you leave it unspecified, the AI will guess, and its guess may not match your needs. Context is everything the AI doesn't know that's relevant to your task. Start with your industry and specific situation. I work at a healthcare startup produces different output than I work at an enterprise software company. The norms, vocabulary, and concerns are different. Describe your audience. I'm presenting to technical engineers who know this technology well versus I'm presenting to executives who have limited technical background. This shapes complexity, jargon use, and what needs explanation. Share what you've already tried. I've already tried X approach and it didn't work because Y. This prevents the AI from suggesting things you've already ruled out and helps it understand your situation more deeply. Explain why you're doing this task. I need this for a board presentation versus I need this for internal documentation leads to different outputs. The purpose shapes the approach. Context is where I see the biggest opportunity for improvement in most people's prompts. They assume the AI knows things it can't possibly know. They jump straight to instructions without establishing the situation. Take an extra minute to provide context. It pays off in output quality. Examples are the most underused element of effective prompting. People try to describe what they want in words when showing an example would be far more effective. If you want a specific format, show that format. I want the output formatted like this example, followed by a sample is much clearer than trying to describe the format in words. If you want a certain tone or style, provide a sample. Match the tone of this writing, followed by a paragraph gives the AI a concrete target. If there are things you definitely don't want, showing a negative example can be powerful. Don't write like this, followed by an example of what to avoid helps the AI understand your preferences. One concrete example is worth more than paragraphs of abstract description. Humans learn from examples. AI, in its pattern matching way, also responds well to examples. It can identify patterns in your example and replicate them. I keep a library of example prompts and outputs for my common tasks. When I need to do something similar, I include those examples in my prompt. This consistency dramatically improves my results. Build your own example library. When you get output you love, save the prompt in the output. When you need something similar in the future, use that as your example. Here's something that many people miss about prompting. It's an iterative process, not a one-shot activity. The first version of a prompt is rarely the best version. You try it, see what you get, and then refine. Maybe the output was too long, so you add a length constraint. Maybe it used jargon you wanted to avoid, so you add that constraint. Maybe the format wasn't quite right, so you provide an example. Each iteration teaches you something about how to communicate with this particular model for this particular task. Over time, you develop intuition for what works. I have prompts for common tasks that I've refined through dozens of iterations. They're now at a level of quality that would have been impossible to achieve in a single attempt. But each iteration was small, just one or two adjustments based on the previous output. Don't expect perfection on the first try. Expect to iterate. Treat each AI interaction as an experiment that produces data about what works. Build on what works. Discard what doesn't. This experimental mindset is key to becoming highly effective with AI. Now let's cover some advanced techniques that will take your prompting to the next level. These are the methods that separate casual users from power users. Chain of thought prompting is one of the most powerful techniques discovered in AI research. It's simple to use but dramatically improves results on complex tasks. The basic technique: ask the AI to think through a problem step by step before giving its final answer. Adding, "Let's think through this step by step," or "Explain your reasoning as you work through this," triggers a different mode of processing. Why does this work? When AI generates text sequentially without explicit reasoning steps, it can jump to conclusions or miss important considerations. When forced to articulate each step, it effectively gives itself more computation and catches errors or gaps that would otherwise slip through. For complex analysis, don't just ask for the conclusion. Ask the AI to walk through its reasoning. For multi-part problems, have it address each part explicitly. For decisions with trade-offs, ask it to evaluate each option before recommending. The output is longer, but it's also more reliable and more transparent. You can see where the AI might have gone wrong. You can identify which step of reasoning you disagree with. I use chain of thought prompting for anything complex: strategic decisions, debugging, analysis of situations with multiple factors. The improvement in output quality is substantial. Few-shot learning is the technique of teaching AI a pattern by showing examples before asking it to generate new output. Here's how it works. Instead of describing what you want, you provide 2 or 3 examples of input-output pairs. Here's an example of what I'm looking for: input, example input, output, example output. Here's another: input, example input, output, example output. Now do the same for input, your actual input. The AI learns the pattern from your examples and applies it to the new case. This is often more effective than trying to describe the pattern in words, especially for complex or subtle patterns. I use few-shot learning for tasks like converting formats, show 3 examples of how I want data transformed, then give it new data, writing in a specific style, provide samples of the style, then ask for new content in that style. Categorization tasks, show examples of how I classify things, then ask it to classify new items. The examples act as a mini training set within your prompt. The AI generalizes from the examples to handle new cases. The more consistent your examples, the better the AI can learn the pattern. 2 or 3 examples is usually enough. More examples can help for complex patterns, but also use more of your context window. Find the balance for your specific task. Role stacking is a technique where you ask the AI to adopt multiple perspectives within a single task. For example, first, analyze this business plan as a skeptical investor looking for weaknesses. Then, analyze the same plan as an enthusiastic entrepreneur looking for opportunities. Finally, synthesize both perspectives into a balanced assessment. This forces the AI to consider multiple angles rather than settling into a single perspective. It's particularly useful for decision analysis, looking at a choice from different stakeholder perspectives, writing feedback, getting both harsh criticism and encouragement on the same piece, strategy development, considering aggressive versus conservative approaches. The key insight is that a single AI perspective is limited. By explicitly asking for multiple perspectives, you get coverage of angles that might otherwise be missed. I use role stacking whenever I'm making an important decision or evaluating something significant. The skeptic perspective catches risks I might minimize. The optimist perspective highlights opportunities I might overlook. The synthesis helps me find a balanced path. Try it with perspectives relevant to your domain, customer versus company, short-term versus long-term, technical versus business. The combination produces richer analysis than any single perspective. Iterative refinement means treating AI interaction as a conversation where you progressively shape the output. Start with a broad request, see what you get. Then refine, that's good, but make it more concise. Or, I like the structure, but change the tone to be more formal. Or, keep the first half, but rewrite the second half to focus on implementation. This conversational approach is often more efficient than trying to craft a perfect prompt up front. You can react to what you see rather than anticipating every need in advance. The AI remembers the context of your conversation. You can reference previous outputs, like the third option you gave me, but with more detail. You can combine elements, take the opening from version 1 and the conclusion from version 2. Some of my best AI outputs came from 4 or 5 rounds of refinement. The first output was okay. By the end, it was exactly what I needed. Each round was a small adjustment, but they compounded. Think of the conversation itself as an extended prompt. Your initial request, plus all your refinements, plus the AI's intermediate outputs together, create the context for the final output. The whole conversation is the prompt. Don't settle for good enough on the first try. Push for great through iteration. Part C is about applying everything we've covered to real work. We'll walk through specific use cases with concrete examples of how to prompt effectively for each. Let's start with writing, one of the most common AI applications. For first drafts, AI is remarkably useful. You provide the structure, key points, and context. The AI generates prose. You edit. This is often faster than writing from scratch, especially for routine content. Prompt template for first drafts. Write a length, format, about topic. The audience's description. Key points to cover, list. Tone should be description. Here's an example of the style I want. Example. For editing, be specific about what kind of feedback you want. Review this for clarity is too vague. Identify any sentences that are confusing or could be misunderstood and suggest clearer alternatives is actionable. Different editing passes. Check for grammatical errors. Identify jargon that should be replaced with plain language. Find places where the argument is weak or unsupported. Suggest ways to make the opening more engaging. Each focused request produces better feedback than a general make this better. Style matching requires examples. If you want writing that sounds like your brand voice, provide samples of existing content. Match the tone and style of this example, your branded content example. Critical rule: never publish AI-generated content without human review. Even with great prompts, there can be errors, awkward phrases, or misaligned tone. The human review is the quality gate. Research and analysis is where AI can save enormous time, but also where verification matters most. Start with broad exploration. Ask AI to give you an overview of a topic, identify key themes, or explain different perspectives. This is great for quickly getting oriented in an unfamiliar domain. Prompt template: give me a comprehensive overview of topic. What are the main perspectives or schools of thought? What are the key debates or open questions? What are the most important things someone new to this topic should understand? Then go deeper with specific questions. What are the main arguments for and against position? What evidence would I need to evaluate claim? What are the limitations of the research in this area? Here's the critical step: verify every factual claim before relying on it. AI might give you a great structure for understanding a topic, but specific facts could be wrong. Check key claims against primary sources. Use AI to structure your thinking, not to reach your conclusions. It can organize information, identify patterns, and suggest frameworks. But the judgment about what to believe and what to do should be yours, informed by verified information. I think of AI as a research assistant. It can gather and organize, but I'm the one who evaluates and decides. This division of labor gets me the speed benefits while maintaining quality. AI is an exceptional learning tool when used properly. Start by setting your level. Explain quantum computing like I'm a business executive with no physics background. Explain this legal concept like I'm a software developer who needs to understand compliance. The right level makes the explanation useful. Ask for analogies to domains you already know. Explain machine learning using analogies from cooking. Explain this financial concept using sports analogies. Good analogies accelerate understanding dramatically. Request structured learning materials. Create a study guide for topic, covering the key concepts, common misconceptions, and practice questions. What are the 10 most important things to understand about topic for someone in my role? Test your understanding. Ask me 5 questions to test whether I really understand topic. What are common mistakes people make when learning this? Help me avoid them. Engage in Socratic dialogue. I think I understand. Let me explain it back to you, and you tell me what I'm missing. This back and forth deepens understanding in ways passive reading can't. Learning from AI has an advantage over static materials. You can ask follow-up questions, request different explanations, and get immediate feedback. Use that interactivity. AI can support better decisions, but you need to use it as a thinking partner, not an oracle. Start by structuring the decision. I need to decide between option A and option B. Here's the context, situation. Help me think through this systematically. Ask for pros and cons of each option. What are the strongest arguments for option A? What are the biggest risks? Do the same for option B. Explore second-order consequences. If I choose option A, what are the likely downstream effects? What might happen that I'm not anticipating? This surfaces considerations you might miss. Pressure test your thinking. I'm leaning toward option A because reasons. What am I missing? What would someone who strongly disagrees with this decision say? Critical principle: the decision is always yours. AI can inform, structure, and challenge your thinking, but it doesn't know everything about your situation, your values, or your constraints. It's a tool for thinking better, not a replacement for your judgment. I use AI extensively for decision support, especially for identifying considerations I might have overlooked. But I never let AI make the final call. The responsibility remains with me. Part D covers the safety and ethical considerations that every AI user should understand. These aren't abstract concerns. They have practical implications for how you use AI at work and in life. Let's start with data privacy, because this is where many people unknowingly create risk. When you input data to an AI system, that data may be used to train future models. This depends on the specific service and its terms. Consumer versions often use your inputs for training. Enterprise versions typically have agreements that your data won't be used this way. This matters a lot. If you paste confidential company information into a consumer AI tool, that information could potentially influence model behavior in ways that surface to other users. The risk is probably low for any specific input, but it's not zero. Read the terms of service for any AI tool you use professionally. Understand what happens to your data. Many organizations are developing AI policies that specify which tools are approved for which types of data. My rule: when in doubt, don't share. If information is confidential, sensitive, or personally identifiable, think twice before putting it into an AI system. Ask yourself, would I be comfortable if this data were part of a training set that other users could potentially query? For highly sensitive work, consider on-premise or private AI deployments that give you more control. For everyday use with non-sensitive data, standard consumer tools are usually fine, but know the difference. Let me get specific about what not to share with AI. Never share passwords, API keys, authentication tokens, or any credentials. This might seem obvious, but people paste entire configuration files that contain secrets. If a credential ends up in training data and resurfaces in a model, the consequences could be severe. Never share personally identifiable information about others. Social security numbers, credit card numbers, health information, private contact details. Even if the immediate risk seems low, you're creating unnecessary exposure. Anonymize when working with sensitive scenarios. If you want AI help with a personnel issue, change the names, modify identifying details, make it generic enough that the real situation isn't identifiable. Use generic scenarios instead of real ones for sensitive topics. Help me draft a termination message is fine. Help me draft a termination message for John Smith, who works in accounting at company X, is not. The guiding principle: assume anything you share could potentially resurface somewhere. This isn't paranoia, it's sensible data hygiene. Think before you paste. AI systems can reflect and amplify biases present in their training data. This has important implications for how you use AI. Training data often contains historical biases. If the internet and published books contain biased perspectives about certain groups, the AI learns those biases. This isn't intentional, but it's real. Be especially skeptical when AI makes assessments about people. If you use AI to screen resumes, evaluate performance, or make decisions that affect individuals, you need to be aware that bias could be influencing the output. For decisions about people, hiring, promotion, access, evaluation, keep humans firmly in the loop. AI can inform these decisions, but it shouldn't make them autonomously. Human judgment is essential for fairness. Watch for subtle biases. AI might suggest that certain names are more associated with certain roles. It might make assumptions about competence based on writing style that correlates with demographic factors. These biases can be hard to spot if you're not looking for them. The goal isn't to avoid AI for these applications entirely. It's to use it with awareness and appropriate human oversight. Recognize the limitations and design your processes accordingly. When you use AI in professional contexts, certain responsibilities remain with you. You own the output. If AI helps you write a report and that report contains errors, you're responsible. The AI got it wrong is not a defense. You chose to use the tool. You chose to publish the output. The accountability is yours. Disclose AI use when appropriate. The norms around this are still evolving, but in many contexts, transparency about AI assistance is expected or required. Academic work, professional certifications, and some client relationships may have disclosure expectations. Don't misrepresent AI work as purely human. If someone asks whether you wrote something and AI did most of the work, be honest. Misrepresentation can damage trust and, in some contexts, violate ethical codes. Maintain professional standards regardless of tools. If your profession has standards for research, analysis, or communication, those standards still apply when using AI. The tool doesn't change the expectations. AI is a powerful tool, but it's a tool. Like any tool, it works for you, and you remain responsible for the results. Use it wisely and own what you produce. In our final section, we'll synthesize everything into a personal AI strategy you can implement immediately. To build your AI strategy, start by identifying where AI can add the most value in your specific work. Where do you spend the most time? These high-volume activities are candidates for AI assistance. Even small improvements per instance compound into large time savings. What's repetitive or formulaic? First drafts of similar documents, routine analysis, standard communications. These are perfect for AI because the pattern is clear and the variation is limited. What would benefit from a thinking partner? Strategic decisions, creative challenges, complex analysis. AI can serve as an always available sounding board for working through difficult problems. Don't try to AI enable everything at once. Start with one use case, get good at it, build the habit, then expand. I started with using AI for first drafts of routine communications. Once that became natural, I expanded to research assistance, then to brainstorming, then to decision support. Each new use case built on the skills developed in previous ones. Identify your starting point based on where you'll see the most immediate value with the least risk. Success breeds success. One of the highest leverage things you can do is build a personal prompt library. When you craft a prompt that works well, save it. Don't recreate the wheel every time. A prompt that took 15 minutes to develop can be reused indefinitely. Create templates for your common tasks. First draft template, feedback request template, research summary template. Fill in the specifics but keep the structure that works. Refine based on experience. When a prompt could be better, improve it. When you find a technique that works well, incorporate it. Your library should evolve over time. Share with your team. If you're in an organization using AI, the collective prompt library is incredibly valuable. What works for one person's tasks often translates to similar tasks for others. I have about 30 prompts in my core library that I use regularly. Some I use daily, some are for specific situations. But having them ready means I can produce high-quality AI output in minutes, rather than starting from scratch every time. Start building your library today. The investment pays off immediately. Think about where in your workflow AI fits best. AI often works better at specific points than as an end-to-end solution. Maybe AI generates a first draft, but you always do a revision pass. Maybe you do initial research yourself, then use AI to synthesize. Identify the points where AI adds value and integrate it there. Build verification into your workflow. After AI generates content, there's a review step. After AI provides research, there's a fact-check step. This isn't overhead. It's how you maintain quality while getting AI's speed benefits. Recognize what AI doesn't help with. There might be tasks where AI consistently produces inferior results, or where the overhead of using AI exceeds the benefit. That's fine. Use the right tool for each job. Measure the value. Track whether AI is actually making you more effective. Is your output quality the same or better? Are you saving time? Are there new things you can do that weren't possible before? If the answers are yes, expand your use. If not, reassess your approach. Your workflow should evolve. What works today might not be optimal in 6 months as AI capabilities change and your skills develop. Stay adaptable. Finally, recognize that AI is a rapidly evolving field. What's true today may change. Capabilities improve constantly. Things AI couldn't do 6 months ago might be possible now. Tasks that required complex prompting might become simple. New modalities and features appear regularly. Follow reliable sources to stay informed. I won't recommend specific sources because this is recorded content that could become outdated, but find a few trusted voices in the AI space and follow their updates. Experiment with new features when they appear. Each new capability is an opportunity to expand what you can do. Early experimentation develops skills before others catch up. Periodically revisit what's possible. Tasks you've done manually might now be AI assisted. Prompts that worked well might be improvable. Approaches you dismissed might now work. Don't assume your current approach is optimal forever. AI fluency isn't a destination. It's an ongoing practice. The users who get the most value are those who continue learning and adapting. Stay curious. Keep experimenting. The best is yet to come. Let's close with the key principles from our 2 hours together. First, AI is probabilistic, not deterministic. It makes confident mistakes. Never take factual claims at face value. Verification is always required. Build this mindset into every AI interaction. Second, your prompt is your entire interface. AI has no context beyond what you provide. Invest in clear, specific, well-structured prompts. Use RICE, role, instructions, context, examples. Iterate until you get great results. Third, trust appropriately. High volume, low stakes tasks can be AI assisted with light oversight. High stakes tasks need heavy verification. Match your oversight to the consequences of error. Fourth, build systems, not one-off interactions. Create prompt libraries. Develop consistent workflows. Build verification into your processes. The compound returns come from systematizing your AI use. You now have a complete framework for AI fluency. You understand what AI is and isn't. You know how to prompt effectively. You have a trust calibration framework. You understand the safety and ethical considerations. And you have a strategy for ongoing development. The next step is practice. Take one technique from today and apply it to your work tomorrow, then another, then another. Build the habit of AI-augmented work. Thank you for your time. I hope this gives you a foundation for becoming highly effective with AI. Practice the principles, stay curious, and keep developing your fluency. I'll see you in the next episode.